She was skeptical of the supernatural, believing that most stories were just that, stories. Armed with her camera and notebook, she set out one foggy afternoon to uncover the truth. As she drove along the empty, narrow road, she could feel the tension in the air. The dense fog seemed to creep closer, almost suffocating the life out of everything around her. The trees stood like silent sentinels, their branches gnarled and twisted as if trying to reach for her car. Maya's headlights barely cut through the fog, casting eerie shadows along the road. The further she drove, the more she began to feel a strange unease, as if the road itself was watching her. Every turn seemed to lead her deeper into an unexplainable silence, a stillness that made her heart race. As she passed an old, decrepit house on the side of the road, she felt a sudden urge to stop. It was an abandoned place, windows shattered, the roof caving in, but there was something about it that tugged at her curiosity. She pulled over and stepped out of the car. The air was freezing, and the silence around her was almost deafening. She walked toward the house, her footsteps crunching in the thick layer of fallen leaves. Just as she reached for the door handle, a gust of wind slammed it shut, making her jump back in surprise. Her breath caught in her throat as she turned to look at the house again. This time, she saw it, a figure standing motionless in the window. Its face was obscured by the darkness, but its eyes glowed with an unnatural light. Maya's heart skipped a beat, and she quickly turned to get back into her car. The moment she got inside, she slammed the door shut, her hands trembling. She started the engine and peeled out of the gravel driveway, her heart pounding in her chest. As she drove away, the fog seemed to grow thicker, and the eerie quiet was replaced by an unsettling hum that filled her car. She tried to brush it off as her imagination running wild, but deep down she couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Then it began. At first it was nothing more than a whisper, a faint sound carried by the wind. Maya thought it was just the sound of the trees, or maybe the wind, but as the whispers grew louder, she began to hear her name, soft, barely audible at first. Maya. It seemed to come from the darkness surrounding her, from the very fog that obscured her view. Her grip on the steering wheel tightened. She glanced nervously into the rearview mirror, but there was nothing behind her, only the thick fog. The whispers continued, becoming more distinct, more desperate. Maya, come back. It wasn't just one voice anymore. It was a chorus of voices layered upon each other, speaking in a frantic tone. The temperature in the car dropped suddenly, her breath visible in the air. The lights on her dashboard flickered. Panic surged through her as she gripped the wheel tighter, desperately trying to maintain control of the car. It's just the fog, she whispered to herself, trying to rationalize what was happening. But deep down, she knew it wasn't just the fog. The whispers grew louder, more insistent. Maya, we are waiting. Her eyes darted to the road ahead, and for a split second, she saw something. A figure standing in the middle of the road, its form indistinct and shadowy. It was tall, unnaturally thin, and it moved as if the very air around it bent and swirled with its presence. Maya slammed on the brakes, the car screeching to a halt just inches away from the figure. She gasped, her hands shaking as she looked around, but the figure was gone. In its place, the fog thickened even further, and the whispers started again, this time closer, as though they were right beside her. Maya, come home. Her breath caught in her throat. The road ahead seemed endless now, and she couldn't turn back. The whispering voices filled her ears, their chilling cadence growing louder and more desperate with every passing second. She didn't know how much longer she could take it, how much longer she could endure the relentless pull of whatever force was trying to drag her into the fog. But in that moment, as she stared into the thick, swirling mist, she realized something terrifying. The road didn't end. The whispering road had no destination. It was endless, looping back on itself, trapping those who dared to drive it in an eternal, suffocating cycle. Maya was never seen again. Some say she became part of the whispers that now haunt the road, her voice joining the chorus of those who had vanished before her. And the road, as the locals warned, remains, a place where the fog never lifts and the whispers never stop.